Okay, so the topic of today's lecture is portraits of society seen through the lens of social structure, meaning we want to see the society from the perspective of social structure. What kind of picture can we see when we use social structure as a means of looking at the society? So that's basically. And we have three subtopics: contemporary social phenomenon, and then social structure as tool to get a picture of society. We discussed about social structure definition, social structure dynamics, and then lastly, the consequences of social structure for human life, a reflection. Okay, the first part is the social phenomena in contemporary, contemporary social phenomenon. We choose COVID-19 as a social phenomenon that we try to discuss in this lecture. So COVID-19 pandemics that is hitting Indonesia has tremendous social implication. As you know that actually it's not only in Indonesia. The implication is really huge in every aspect of our lives, from the economic up to personal behavior. And then the handling and impact of COVID-19 cannot be separated from the social structure. Of course, we actually in the reading it is mentioned several times. Yeah. So this is actually the first assignment. Try to identify the various social structures in the context, in the text, I mean. So as Brian mentioned, actually this is the assignment number 1. So you have to identify various social structures in the text, the reading that is provided. The reading is in the material, so we don't put here in this presentation, of course. Now, if you are asked to identify several social structure in the reading, but unfortunately you didn't have the reading in English, yeah?
Yeah, sir. Unfortunately, not, sir.
No, eh? Everybody agree with Brian that you cannot find the English version of the reading?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Sir.
I'm so sorry. So I cannot discuss about that, but actually the reading is interesting. It's about COVID-19 and the people struggle how to overcome it by um, borrowing money from money lenders and so on. So actually, it's there are all of the social structure type of social structure actually this mentioned or discussed in that reading actually. But okay, I'll tell the organizer of this, the administrative, to provide the reading in English. Okay, so we just proceed to the second point then. Oh. Now we come to the second part, social structure as a tools to get a picture of society. Okay. We start by definition or meaning of social structure. As mentioned here, Nikos Moselis divided social structure into 3, actually 4 according to him, because the distributional he actually also explained virtual and actual aspect. But basically these 3. One is normative institutional. I think all of the presenters already mentioned about this. And then interactive figurational already also mentioned and explained by the presenters and also by the discussion when that we have already here. And then the distributional. So 3 types of social structure. mentioned or argued by Nikos Maslis in his book. Now, let's see the meaning of this one by one. The normative or normative what, sorry, I cannot see it. Normative institutional. So basically, the normative or institutional is the social structure in the form of norms and rules, as already explained by Group One very nicely, I think. So all of rules, all of norms that guides or structure our behavior in society, that is social structure in the form of normative or institutional. Yeah, so it's a regulation, rules, norms, formal and non-formal. Like for example, here the picture, you are not allowed to cycling in this area. You are not allowed to do the, what is the first one? I cannot remember it now. But you know, what is the first picture? Can you mention?
It's roller skating, sir.
Yeah. It's skating. Yeah. Okay. So this is norms. You know, you are not allowed. So your behavior, your action is structure or regulate by these norms. So we are not free to do whatever we want. We are actually limited by these rules and regulation. And in this one, jika merasa tidak sehat. So this is about rules about our health, yeah. Especially this is during the pandemic. So we are supposed to wear what is it? We wear masker, and then we have to follow the rules when we sneezing, for example, and also we are supposed not to use a mass transportation, but instead more private. So all of these actually norms and regulation actually implemented during the pandemic. So that's a normative type of social structure. That's normative type of social structure. So I think it is easy for you to remember any rules that govern our behavior, any norms that govern our behavior. That is a social structure in the form of normative institutional, including the way how we should conduct our lecture, our class, and whatever, you know, regarding the norms and regulation and rules. That is a first type or normative institutional type of social structure. And you know, this is very important because all of us, basically all of the us, there is no one of us can avoid this kind in our daily life. Even when you drive your own car, you're supposed to wear a seat belt. Otherwise, you will be fined. You know, if you are not using a seat belt. And also, if you bring, if someone bring, actually, if you go to like Australia or Canada or America, when someone drive and bring a baby in their car, they should put the baby in the car seat and then put the seat belt to tie the baby. What was it? Yes, you know that. Yeah, the place of the baby. So that's all kind of regulation. You know, even when we eat, actually, we are not free to eat everywhere, anywhere, just according to our own will. So we have a regulation where you're supposed to eat. Like for example, in the public transport, like train, you are not allowed to eat in that place. You know, so in our life, we are full with regulation, norms, which actually determine and influence our behavior, our action, our social action, our social relation, things like that. Okay. Now the second type of social structure is interactive figurational. This is a concrete, yeah. The social structure is in the form of actual or concrete relations between social actors at a certain time and place, including what is often referred to as established pattern of relation. For example, relation between parents and children. So this established pattern of how you relate with one another, the way people relate one another, interact one another, the concrete way of people interacting one another. That is a figurational interactive, and this is including, for example, relations interaction between what we call it patron and clients. Patron is like those who are in power and giving help to the client, and client usually less, the position is lower than the patron, and depend on the patron for many things. And but in the they have to give back to the patron in terms of like they have to help doing something and so on. In fishing community, the patron client type of relationship is really very common. We found in almost every fishing community. This is, for example, what I found in Balikpapan in East Kalimantan. Yeah, the patron client type of relationship between the owner of the ship or boat, fishing boat, and then the labor of fishermen who work in that fishing boat. So it's kind of patron-client relationship. The patron give many things to help the client, and the client also give back, in terms of their service, like for example, helping, doing something, and so on. And they can also borrow money from the patron, and then even sometimes they don't need to pay it back, but they have to still work with the patron as long as they are still have this relation. So this is a concrete kind of social interaction, and this is interactive figurational type of social structure. Okay. And the third one, the last one, is a distributional type of social structure. This one is a social structure in the form of population distribution based on certain categories such as wealth, ethnicity, gender, and so on. The explanation of this type is given very nicely by a sociologist named Peter M. Blow. He said that social structure is conceptualized narrowly as referring to the distribution of a population among different social positions that reflect and affect people's relation with one another. To speak of social structure is to speak of differentiation among people. And then he further explained by using two type of parameters. Yeah, in this type of social structure, there are two types of parameters that usually people use to distribute the population, to categorize the population. The characteristic, as here mentioned, the key concept of for understanding social structure parameters, namely the characteristic used by members of the population to make a difference between them. For example, the nominal parameters categorize people based on or differentiating members of population by using discrete categories such as ethnicity, religion, gender, occupation, and so on. While the graduated parameters placing the members of population into a scale or order rank hierarchy, yeah, rank hierarchy or scale, levels that is continuous, yeah, such as level of education. So education is higher education, lower education, middle education, or income, higher income, middle income, and lower income. The same as wealth as well as power. Those who are in power, and then those who are in the middle, and then those who are more or less don't have power, compared to the people on the top of the scale. So these two type of way to placing members of a population into categories. One is using nominal parameters, and another one is using graduated parameters. When you use the nominal parameters, then the result will be horizontal structure. While when you use the graduated parameters, the result will be a vertical social structure. For example, when you use this well, for example, to categorize people, then like this picture, there are some people who are very rich. They have a very good house, for example, and then there are other people who are very poor. For example, there is kind of, we cannot even say this is a house, but this is the place where they live their daily lives. So this is based on discrete, discrete or rank category. Then we come up with stratification, strata, social strata, upper strata, middle strata, and then lower strata. So this social stratification is a kind of a vertical social structure because it is stratified, higher, middle, and lower. So this is vertical social structure, yeah, such as stratification based on wealth, based on education, based on power, and so on. While if you use the nominal parameters, then we will have this horizontal social structure, because it is then the population will be then groups in more or less the same. Like for example, um, um, people based on their ethnicity, for example. Uh, it is supposed to be every ethnic actually has the same, more or less the same position. Actually, even though in reality, sometimes uh, we treat it, we treat people or ethnic, certain ethnic in a higher level, but actually it's supposed to be the same level. So this is a horizontal social structure, grouping of members of society based on nominal parameters produce social groups. Okay. The level of differentiation based on these nominal parameters determine the level of heterogeneity of a society or community. So if it is like only a very few, then it is more or less homogen, yeah. But if there are many groups like ethnicity in Indonesia, we have a very heterogen. So this is a level of heterogeneity, yeah. If you use the nominal parameters as the way to divide or to placing people in category. While grouping of members using based on graduated will produce a level of inequality. If it is very high difference between the upper and the middle and the lower, then the inequality is high. While if it is not very big, the discrepancies or the difference between the upper and the middle and the lower strata or class, meaning that the level of inequality is quite low. That's good, actually. All of us should have a low level of inequality. So that's three types of social structure. So one is the normative, institutional. The second is figurational, which is real social interaction, and the third one is distributional social structure. This is just example. if we use nominal parameters, then like we have ethnicity. In Indonesia, we have very many different ethnicity. I think the group one or the first presenter, group 3, explained it nicely. Based on religion, we have many religion, political affiliation, gender, of course, gender only 2, but I don't know now, maybe it's the more than 2 gender, because some people claim themselves as not really male or female, but somewhere in between sometime. Okay, and okay, so this is social groups, yeah. Based on ethnicity, you have social group. For example, Japanese, Sundanese, Bataknese, and so on and so forth. This is a social group, and this is horizontal groups, yeah. If we use nominal parameters, and then we use vertical or graduated parameters, then we come up with upper, middle, and lower. For example, income or land ownership or education, power, prestige, etc., etc. Like this example, yeah. Some of the farmers have a large scale of land ownership, while others very small, and even some others have none. They have no land by their own. Okay, and this is just example. In Indonesia, farmers based on the land area or category that they own, the ownership of the land. So most of these farmers in Indonesia has, or they have a quite small size of land ownership. And this is a kind of also in among fishers that I studied in West in East Kalimantan, consists of worker class officer, small class officer, middle class, and then big or capitalist class officer. So that is the hang on. That is basically the type of social structure. So we have already discussed the meaning and type of social structure, 3 type of social structure and the meaning of it. So now I want to respond to question. Who was it? Question about the diversity and whether diversity is good or not for us, because if it is only one type of, for example, ethnicity, maybe that's not really um, nice actually. Who asked that question? I forget. Hello? Someone was asking about that. Can you?
I think it's me, sir.
Okay, can you a little bit repeat your question so I can respond it?
Yeah, but I'm sorry in advance, my connection is unstable. My question
Oh,
was,
it's okay.
okay, thank you, sir. My question was, in my opinion, social integration pay a risk toward the loss of uniqueness of each culture or race. I wanted to ask, in your opinion, do you think social integration should be the main goal for every country because it has an effect on the loss of the diversity?
Okay,
Thank
that's good.
you.
Well, thank you. So social integration, social integration doesn't mean that we need what is uniformity. Social integration doesn't mean uniformity. Social integration simply that the society is still keep still maintain their unity, yeah, unity. Like Indonesia, for example, up to now, the social integration in Indonesia is quite good, actually. Even though there are, of course, some threats to our integration. For example, in the past time, we actually one province of Indonesia actually no longer become part of Indonesia. So that kind of that's a kind of disintegration. But so far, up to now, Indonesia is still strong integration, right? Again, even though some of the people in certain province want to depart from Indonesia, no longer become part of Indonesia, but so far still. So social integration doesn't it is not the same as uniformity. Even though we have so many kind of, we are very diverse, but we still can maintain our integration. So once again, integration meaning we maintain the unity of the social system or the nation, actually. So but of course, when you have a very diverse ethnicity, religion, and so on, of course, then you have a potentially danger for the I mean, at least difficulty in maintaining the social integration compared to people with only, let's say, more or less the same um, ethnic background, for example. Like, well, maybe if I can mention example, maybe Japanese, yeah, Japan, yeah, Japanese or Japan, they have, I think they have a very, I'm not sure. From outside, we can see only one type of ethnic, actually, but even though inside may be different. But that's different from Indonesia. For example, we have so many different, but still we can maintain the unity of our nation or social integration. Yeah. So it is, of course, a bit problem, but we still cannot. We still, of course, can maintain the social integration. Okay, so that's my explanation. Any others question? Actually, because this is related to the number 2 of your assignment, yeah, how to maintain social integration in the context of very diverse social background, ethnically speaking, religiously speaking, and others. Okay. Now, if you don't have any question, I think I want to show the video if I can. I don't know, because I have problem in accessing the video. Okay, I hope I can. Problem. Can you hear the voice?
No, sir.
Hello?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No? Oh, then I have to.
Yeah, video will show.
No, you cannot hear the voice, right?
Cannot.
Oh, how can I make it? I have to. Let me. Anybody can help me how to make the share screen?
I think I can help, sir, with the share screen.
Okay, with the share screen. Can you do that, Brian?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, wait, sir. Is it already there, sir?
Not yet. Okay, it's there. It's there already. You just play
Okay,
it,
sir. Okay.
but it's not. It's disappear now. Okay, now it's there.
How about this one?
Ribuan warga kota Ferguson,
Yeah, that's
St.
good.
Louis, Missouri, menghadiri pemakaman Michael Brown, remaja kulit hitam yang tewas ditembak oleh seorang polisi kulit putih, Darren Wilson, awal Agustus lalu. Saat ditembak, Brown tidak bersenjata. Hal ini mengundang protes keras warga kulit hitam selama 2 minggu terakhir di Ferguson.
We have to have the conversation. People don't want to have the conversation about race, and we have to have the conversation. We have to talk about the racial issues, we have to talk about the racial tension, and then we have to talk about how we can eradicate it.
Penembakan Brown dinilai sebagai kasus lain diskriminasi dan ketegangan rasial di Amerika. Setelah tahun 2012 lalu, remaja kulit hitam Trayvon Martin tewas ditembak pria kulit putih di Florida. Jika di Indonesia diskriminasi banyak terjadi karena perbedaan agama, di Amerika diskriminasi dilatar belakangi oleh perbedaan ras. Warga kulit hitam di Amerika sering menjadi korban tindak rasisme dan kekerasan. Sejarah diskriminasi rasial di Amerika dapat ditelusuri sejak masa perbudakan dan perang sipil. Tahun 1964, gerakan pro hak-hak sipil berhasil meloloskan undang-undang yang menghapus diskriminasi berdasarkan ras, warna kulit, agama, dan asal negara. Namun hingga kini kekerasan terhadap warga kulit hitam masih kerap terjadi, khususnya oleh aparat penegak hukum.
We need the Congress to have legislation about guidelines in policing. We need to have a fair, impartial investigation. And we need those that are bad cops. We're not anti-police. We respect police. But those police that are wrong need to be dealt with just like those in our community are wrong need to be dealt with.
Presiden Obama mengutus pejabat Gedung Putih untuk menghadiri pemakaman Michael Brown yang dikebumikan di Taman Pemakaman St. Peter di St. Louis, Missouri. Dari Washington DC, VOA.
Okay, thank you, Brian. So, from that short movie or video, there are at least 2 types of social structure mentioned in that movie. Who can remember and identify those 2 types of social structure? Lynn?
I only can give one. I think the answer
Okay.
is distributional.
Okay. Which is, in that case?
Ethnicity.
Ethnicity. Okay, so ethnicity is a distributional type of social structure, and that's become problem in the US. Ethnicity and based on race, yeah, there is a discrimination among the people of color, especially the Afro American. They got this kind of social discrimination. So that's one type, yeah. And actually, there is also mention about the another example of distributional social structure mentioned by the reporter. Do you remember? This is not in the US, but he mentioned in Indonesia.
Religion, sir?
Yes, Jessica, yeah. Religion. So he mentioned, the reporter said, while in Indonesia, many times conflict or discrimination take place based on religion, in the US, it's based on race. So you already understand, yeah, you can pick up what the what type of social structure mentioned in that movie. There is another, actually there is another type of social structure mentioned by someone in that movie. Who can identify that one? Actually, it was quite clear. Someone mentioned it. Okay, let me try to find out and ask you. Haidar Arhab. Can you identify Haidar Arhab?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Do you remember what type of social structure also mentioned in that movie? In addition to the distributional? No?
Yes, sir.
Anybody voluntarily? Rifki Hasim. Can you mention Rifki? Hi, Rifki. Rifki, are you here or not? Rifki. I wonder if Rifki is attending this lecture or not.
Sir,
Yeah?
Rifki, he typed in the chat room.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, okay, let me see. I'm sorry, Rifki. Yeah, sure. Yes, Rifki, can you mention what another type of social structure that is mentioned in the movie, short movie? You can write it down in the chat. No? Okay. No. Okay. So who can then? I asked 2%. They don't remember what type of social structure was mentioned in addition to the distributional social structure. Anybody at all or no one?
Power maybe, sir, between police and the color skin.
Yeah, what is it?
Power.
Authority maybe, sir.
Oh, okay. So actually, basically, you want to mention that the police has power, while those people they don't have power. But this is what type of social structure is that then?
Interactive.
No. If you talk about some people has power, some people have more power, and some other does not have such a power, then what kind of social structure is that?
Wasn't it vertical, sir?
Figurational.
Are you sure?
Normative.
Are you sure?
Vertical.
Yeah, it is vertical, right? You remember that's a type of vertical social structure, and that means it is a type of distributional social structure, okay? Because we distribute people based on the power they have, right? Some people have more power, some are not. So this is a kind of a distributional social structure, and this is a vertical social structure, okay? Now still missing one type, so we still talking about distributional, okay? By this example of power, there is still one missing type of social structure that was mentioned. Anybody can identify? So far we have only one type that we discuss. Actually, at least another one. Hello? Anybody wants to try? Actually, this is actually mentioned by a black speaker when he talk about the police. You remember? No, eh? Anybody?
Sir, may I try?
Sure.
Is it when the police should be given the law as if the normal people or the citizens are given? Is it normative? Or
Very close, very close.
institutional?
But what? Yeah. That is actually even he mentioned actually about the guidelines. Okay, you remember he talking about the guidelines how to, like he mentioned about the need to have a guidelines how the police should behave, how the police should treat the black people, for example. So these guidelines is what? What type of social structure is guidelines?
Normative.
Normative, right? That's correct. So it is normative institutional because it is a norm, to how this police should behave when they treat the people. They should treat black as well as white the same way, not differently, for example. So that's a norm. That's a norm. So that's why they consider the police actually don't follow a good norm. They do the discrimination. So this is a type of normative institutional social structure. Okay, good. Finally, you can find it out. Any questions so far? Any or no? Okay. So how far are we already? I think this is about the last part of this this is already, hang on. Okay, so we still have how many minutes? 20. Okay, it's about 20. I hope I can still finish this. So in everyday life, we often feel that the existing social structure, such as certain rules, including bureaucracy, collective behavior patterns passed down from generation to generation, we call it custom, as well as social stratification, is restraining us strongly. For example, as we have seen the rules, we are not allowed to do this, we are not allowed to do that, and so on and so forth. We have to follow the rules. The rules really limit our freedom. For example, we sometimes feel like that, like we feel we are powerless in facing the bureaucracy, the rules and regulation. We cannot change it easily. Now, this kind of condition, the feeling of powerlessness in facing the social structures like rules, bureaucracy, and so on and so forth, it may, the condition can make us forget that the social structure, whether it is in form of normative, whether it is in form of distributional or interaction, social interaction, it is actually a man-made. We actually produce this social structure. We together as a collectivity, we collectively produce it. Otherwise, if many people disagree with it, the social structure will change, like norms, regulation, even the distributional. If we don't, for example, if we dissolve the property right, for example, then there will be no people own much larger land, for example, and while others have almost nothing. If we decide that there is no private ownership, for example. So actually, this is a social we call it social construct. We construct it, we made it, we produce it together. So by understanding this, social structure is not something that is permanent and unchangeable. Social structure is dynamic. Social phenomena which experience changes either slowly or rapidly. So I think this is very important for us when we face this social structure. While sometimes we really feel like we are powerless in facing and changing it, but actually we can in some way or another actually change it, maybe by collective action, by protesting, and so on, and so, or through the lawmakers that produce the laws, the rules, for example. We can work together to change in order to make a much better life, for example. So this is actually the process, a man-made social structure change. The interaction between social structure and human individuals is as follows. Like individual, this is, sorry, still in Bahasa Indonesia. Yeah. The individual actually determined or produced by social. But then each individual actually contribute to the maintain or the changes of social structure. So we can produce a type of social structure, a type. And then this actually again influence our individual life, but then we can also change this to become a new type of social structure. So again, this is showing that social structure is not something that is permanent, something that is immutable, that we cannot change. But this really actually depend on us as a producer of the social structure. So all of us, no exception, everybody actually contribute to the reproduction or continuity of a social structure. So that's why when we agree, for example, to change a social structure, again, whether it is in the form of normative, institutional, or interaction, or distributional, we can change it as long as we agree and we have a power together, for example, to change it. So that's a dynamic of social structure. Don't forget, actually, the social structure is socially produced collectively by many people, and including us. All of us contribute again to the continuation or to the discontinuation or continuation of a social structure. In terms of how the social structure is produced, the process, we can identify two types of social structure. One is accidentally formed or not planned. Yeah, we don't plan something. We don't plan something, but it is based on social interaction, everyday life. For example, like informal norms. It's usually like in traditional community or even in our society. Actually, there are many social norms that is not we never plan it actually, but it is just evolve and come out based on everyday social interaction. For example, here in society, there are that we call it pamali, that is a kind of prohibition to do something. Usually this come up through a long process of social interaction, and also custom like SASI, system of resource management system called SASI in Indonesia. That's also come out based on long social process, evolve slowly, evolutionary way of producing it. So that's I call it accidentally or form not planned social structure. But there are also some social structure that we produce it intentionally we produce it, we plan to produce it. Like for example, lecture rules, we intentionally make these rules in order to conduct the lecture in order. Otherwise, it's messy, for example. So to make it as the way that we intend, we produce rules and regulation. So this kind of social structure is deliberately formed or planned or produced by intention. Example are many. For example, the regulation regarding our behavior during the pandemic, for example, all are planned. You know, the way we interact, that we should not close in interaction one another, for example, that is produced by the government, and we obey it. So that's why it is working. But if many people, for example, disobey it, it won't be working. Maybe it should be maybe revise, for example, the content of the rules. So that's basically how social structure come up. One is intentionally, and another one is not intentionally produced. Okay, now is there any question? Actually, this reflection is based on the short movie that we just discussed.